Thursday at 6:15 on Goliath Radio. Azama-Edwards, retired city clerk, former city commissioner, City of Daytona Beach. The Truth with Gwen and...
It's ready to go, Gwen. It's ready to go.
Yes, is this on?
Stan, you've been sitting much too long.
Leave that on. Leave it on.
Thank you. Let's see, you switched up on me a second. Stan, you've been sitting much too long. Welcome, 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 welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind, a program whose sole purpose is to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and your community. And as always, we want to thank you, thank you, thank you.
He's
Numbers, Miss.
Well, he's on
Oops, you
three.
just turned something on.
He's on 3.
Okay, all right. Okay, and as always, I want to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and your community. As always, too, I want you to go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com so you can access all those resource listings that will, what? Empower you. As has been stated, I'm Gwen Azama-Edwards, former city commissioner, retired city clerk, City of Daytona Beach, author, minister, community volunteer, you name it, I've done it, and I'm here to just share a little truth with you. And I want to do a couple or so shout outs. I want to do shout out to the Trayvon Martin family. Trying to put these glasses on. And for all of the positive things that are coming from that, if such a thing can be the case, especially in terms of the Trayvon Martin Foundation, which they have started, which will help to teach young people positive ways of actually not only dealing with situations, but also to help give them scholarships and to help educate them so that they can be a part of the system that the family and so many feel failed them, and become a part of the system so that they can help bring about more positive change. So shout out to all of them and everyone who's working to bring about positive change in that regard. Shout out to Lonnie Brown Jr., the son of our former Social Security Administrator, Lonnie Brown. I'm sure, well, those of you who are younger may not remember, but those of us who've been around for a while know that Lonnie Brown was administrator for Social Security Administration, in Volusia County for many, many, many years. Outstanding job was done by him. And his son, the son of he and Alma Brown of Ormond Beach, got a recent promotion. And that was to become the, I'm going to make sure I get this right now, School's Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at the University of Georgia School of Law. He was a part of the faculty there, has been since 2002, and that is a recent promotion that he's had, and he has a great, great background, which is printed in the neighborhood newspaper. And want to do a shout out to Pete Gamble, who has a new program called the Daytona Neighborhood Network Center, and they had their 4th annual honor roll dinner at Martini's Chop House on Ridgewood Avenue, and they say Daytona Beach, they work with the Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach with their Fatherhood Initiative, and this is an honor roll dinner where the family and the kids get to dress up. It's an elegant affair, and they've been doing this as a way of honoring the honor roll students from several housing projects, 3 of them actually, 1 in Holly Hill, 2 in Daytona Beach. And that's a fantastic thing that they do, and we want to give them a shout out. And just a shout out to all of you. Life is tough sometimes, and sometimes you feel that it's just so tough. those of us who've been around for a while know that there are ups and downs in life. You know, you have valleys and you have mountains. And as soon as you reach the top of that mountain, before you know it, you know, you're starting a decline. And, you know, keep working at it and you'll see yourself in an upcline or incline eventually. So don't give up, hang tough, and stay positive. Are my words for tonight. Our guest that we will be talking with tonight is an attorney, Scott Selis, and many of you may recall Scott. He was a former commissioner, as myself, and different cities. But Scott is an attorney, and one of the reasons that I asked that he come on the show tonight is to talk about an area that I think is just very key and very important in terms of what's happening now with health care, especially with the Affordable Care Act and some of the changes that will be coming about with that, Scott, but also in terms of seniors and what's happening with seniors and things that are impacting seniors. And a lot of what you do in terms of the law deals with the senior community.
That's right. I'm an elder care lawyer, or an elder law attorney, some people would say, and what we do is we help people find ways to pay for long-term care when they can't get insurance or they just can't afford insurance, and it just helps save people's life savings from going right down the drain.
Oh, wonderful. And that is just plain awesome. Now, you know, I was thinking about, in preparation for tonight, I was going through things that I had done today, just today, and all of it involves seniors. I serve on the Elder Source Advisory Council, or their committee, advisory committee, and one of the things I volunteered to do for them is make calls to do surveys of people who are receiving either Meals on Wheels or are part of a congregate dining facility. They go there for meals and the like, or they receive other services, and really the results have just been fantastic. But I made a couple of trips to one of the facilities today, and the results were great because they love the person who is over that congregate dining site. But in listening to the seniors, and some of them, you know, they're in their 80s or 90s, and even talking with them on the phone, I tell you, seniors feel so blessed, number one, and they also feel especially blessed if they still, you know, have their right mind, if they're still able to get around somewhat, and they have some type of a social network and family who watch over them, take care of them, help to take care of them. And then I also had the opportunity, because I serve on the advisory board too, for the Olds Hall Good Samaritan Center, and seeing some of the things they're doing to upgrade and update their facilities there. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful location, wonderful facility, the only Christian actually facility of its kind in the county. But really, I am always just awe-inspired. I don't know about you, but I am awe-inspired when I see and I talk with and I'm around seniors. I felt that when I was growing up, I didn't hang with, you know, people my own age. I hung with older people because they were the ones with the wisdom, with the knowledge, with the wherewithal to really be able to tell you something that you could benefit from and really keep you out of trouble too. But whenever I am around seniors, elder individuals, and or talk with them or whatever else, I just think it's just phenomenal, their outlook on life. And I'm not talking about the ones who have unfortunately had their outlook kind of bent and they're kind of negative about what they see, but for the most part, people that I run into are really positive and upbeat about life and what's going on, and truly they're just happy to be 6 feet up as opposed to the opposite.
Well, you know, people like to bury lawyers deeper than
they do, huh?
Yeah, because deep down we're really nice people.
Well, you know, when I heard your presentation at the Center for Business Excellence presentation they did on healthcare at the summit, and then the sub workshop that you did, you and your fellow attorney and some other attorneys from other locations as well. And really, I was awestruck as well by not only your knowledge, but also your desire, your strong desire to really help the elder community, help those that are in need of information, advice, guidance, and the like. And you really do care. You know, that came across to me. And I hope you didn't fool me now, but
We've known each other too long.
Yes. But share with, number one, share with them the, because one of the names of your partners I could not pronounce, so I'm going to let you announce that and where you guys actually provide services. And then if you could share with us, what do you see as, let's see, let's start this with upcoming changes in terms of health care. Those that have been communicated that look like are actually coming to fruition either toward the end of this year, next year, that definitely will impact seniors. And then let's talk about Medicare overall.
Well, I joined Chiumento, Selis, Dwyer in January of 2011. The Chiumento law firm was founded 40 years ago, actually, this year, this past April, by Mike Chiumento. And his son Michael and Mike are in practice. Our main offices are in the south end of Palm Coast. If anybody knows where the Flagler Airport is, we're very close to there. We've also got a satellite office right here in Daytona Beach. It's across the street from Vince Carter's restaurant, and it's on so of course it's on LPGA Boulevard right now in 95. It's very, very convenient. And one of the things that people don't realize typically is that Chiumento, and it is kind of an odd name, isn't it? It's hard to pronounce.
Yeah, it looks different from where it's pronounced. It's when you pronounce it, it just sounds really easy, but when you look at it, it's a little bit.
Well, I was pronouncing it for a long time, Chiumento, because that's the way it looks. And finally, my partner corrected me. He says it's Chiumento, but thankfully they haven't quite kicked me out yet. So that works out well. And we have 7 attorneys in our law firm. We are the largest law firm in Flagler County. We're a full-service firm. Our law firm was founded on real estate and also wills, trust, powers of attorney. And over time now has grown to where we do everything from bankruptcy to personal injury to tax disputes, divorce, bankruptcy, criminal law, traffic citations, wills, trust, powers of attorney, guardianships, probate, pretty much anything that people need in the legal world, we're able to provide that at either office, whichever is most convenient. But you know, changes in healthcare that are coming up are significant, and really the seniors, and you know, I'm about to be 52 a little bit later this year, and one part of me is a little bit glad that the definition of senior has changed. Because you know, for a long time people was, I don't want to be a senior. Well, I'm not sure what the alternative to not being a senior is, except for getting that 6 feet under. And but now being a senior is changing because the definition itself, if you think of it, is really people who are in their 60s used to be considered seniors. They're really not anymore. Now the fastest growing demographic out there is 85 years of age and above. There's a tremendous commercial on television that really brings this point home. And some of your listeners may have, and you may have seen this commercial, and I don't remember who it's for, but they've got this great big white board up in a park, and it's got people's ages on it.
And they stick,
do you know a person in this age group? And the age group between 85 and 95 is amazingly tall.
Absolutely.
Because so many of us do know people in the 85 to 95, and that's who's becoming senior citizens nowadays. It's no longer the 65 to 75 because we all live so much longer. And, you know, back in the old days, people just died, didn't they? Right? You know, you'd have a heart attack, you keel over, you're dead.
And so much of what is set up in terms of insurance and the like was based on people dying younger at 60s and whatever, or even before.
65 actually. And so, you know, now with the advances in medicine as they have been, and advances in nutrition and understanding of nutrition, people are living a lot longer, a lot longer. And diseases of aging are really first becoming known because we didn't have that many people who lived into their 80s and 90s in the pretty recent past. And so, you know, in what I see from the healthcare perspective is that the focus in the Affordable Care Act, which some people call Obamacare, even President Obama has embraced that.
Yes. And now that he's embraced it, you hear less of that and more of the Affordable Care Act.
Interesting, isn't it? You know, there were some people who used that term in a pretty derogatory way.
Right, yeah.
But in any event, the focus in Obamacare is to punish healthcare providers who are not being efficient in their practice. And a tremendous example of that is with the hospitals. If one of the things that seniors see time and again is they get admitted to the hospital, discharged, and then readmitted for the same condition within 30 days. Happens all the time. In and out, in and out, in and out. And that's one of the biggest problems for Medicare, is that they're having these, if it had been properly diagnosed and treated the first time with appropriate follow-up care, the likelihood of the readmission is lower. So there is now a penalty to the hospitals that if there is a readmission for the same condition within 30 days of a senior citizen who's on Medicare, obviously, then it's going to be a situation where they're penalized. They don't get reimbursed nearly as much as they would if it was just a first admission. So now they really have to get it right that first time. They really have to get it right. Additionally, the hospitals, you know, they took a 10% cut in what they would get paid. I believe it was 10%, it may have been a little more, in what they would get paid under Medicare. And the idea for that was that all these people that they're treating who they are not getting paid for, you know, the working poor who are too wealthy for Medicaid, but not so wealthy that they could afford health insurance and actually pay for it.
Right, who were to be covered in the expansion of Medicaid.
Would have been covered in the expansion
that
of
we didn't
Medicaid.
do.
That was the trade-off. That was the quid pro quo. And what's happened now is that with our government not taking on that expansion,
it was about $1 billion, right?
It's well, you know, it wouldn't have cost us anything.
Right, yeah.
It was
that would have come to the state, right?
That was the biggest. That's the biggest myth. You know, Florida is number 44 in the country for the amount of federal tax dollars that come back to our citizens.
And we've been crying over that for longer than I've been alive, actually.
And it's about to get worse because with the refusal to expand the Medicaid program, to bring these folks, the working poor, into the fold, to get them covered under some type of a health insurance so they don't have to go to the hospital, they can go to an urgent care clinic or they can go to a doctor's office, or if they need to go to the emergency room, then they can, but at least then the emergency rooms will get reimbursed for it. So under the Affordable Care Act, in the states where there is not an expansion of Medicaid occurring, such as Florida, then they're going to really take it on the chin. They're taking it on the chin really badly right now, as a matter of fact. So it's really an interesting situation that way.
And we do want to mention, because I had guests on about a week or a couple of weeks ago who were talking about the time to sign up for the marketplace. And that, of course, is effective in October 1, and it goes through March 31 with the healthcare coverage or insurance, healthcare, I guess they call it health insurance, starting January 1 of 2014. And people are being trained now so that they can help people to get signed up. And it's so key for people who are listening, or if you know someone who does not have health care, to keep their eyes and ears open and get ready for October 1st so that they can go ahead and get signed up for that coverage.
Yeah, and there's a lot of confusion about what's going to happen with that. There was confusion before the federal government said, okay, we're going to delay the implementation for employers by a year. Now there's even more confusion, because I've heard people out there in the community saying, "Oh, we're not going to have the exchanges now. It's been pushed back a year." Well, that's not true.
That's not true, right? Everything else is going forward.
Right. And one of the biggest myths about the Affordable Care Act, about Obamacare, is that it's just going to drive up the cost of business radically. And one of the points that I drove home fairly well, I hope, at this Center for Business Excellence is that, first of all, the mandate to have insurance only applies to employers who have at least 50 full-time employees. And in this country, amongst employers with more than 50 full-time employees, only 0.3% of those companies do not provide health insurance to their people. So the population that's really going to be affected by this is really very small. And there is no mandate that an employer with less than 50 full-time employees provide insurance to their they're workers, and the workers will have these exchanges available to go out and find health insurance for themselves. But there are tax incentives that are available for the small employer who decides that they will provide insurance to their folks. And I believe in the first year, I don't remember, I think it's 35% in the first year, but eventually it grows to a 50% tax credit. And so let's talk about how that works. I mean, people always hear tax deduction, and tax credit's totally different. With a tax deduction, for example, a person who has $100,000 of income before their deductions would pay, if they had no deductions, would pay tax at the appropriate rate for $100,000. A deduction, which I think is about 32 to 35%, with deductions, let's say they have mortgage interest of $20,000 a year, that reduces their income to $80,000, which gives them a savings of 30% of that $20,000, so they're not paying taxes on that. So really that's about $7,000. A tax credit, on the other hand, is dollar for dollar. And so given that same example, if you get a tax credit, you would get $20,000 back from the government on your taxes. So what the Affordable Care Act has in it are provisions to encourage smaller employers to provide health insurance to their employees by providing a tax credit as high as 50%. So if you think about this, now let's say you're a small business owner, you've got 10 employees working for you, and you need to go out and, let's say you go out and you buy health insurance and it ends up costing, you know, about $10,000, it costs about $5,000 a month, and so it's costing you $60,000 a year. Under some programs, depending on the circumstances, they can get a $30,000 tax credit. So they're spending $60,000. It's not a deduction. It's a straight off the top of what their tax obligation is. It's one of the least known, most poorly understood aspects of the law. It's exciting, if you ask me, for folks to when they find out about this. I've got friends who are business owners whose jaws drop. They hear about these statistics. They're amazed that that's even.
And one of the other attorneys, well known, who made the statement too, that there are people, they've been reading and hearing about people who said that the employers are cutting their people the time that they work, the hours they work, so they don't have to pay insurance on them, or they're doing this, they're doing that. And they say when they get them, they sit them down and they talk to them and they show them that it's to their advantage to go ahead and get the insurance.
It may be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, there's been so much hoopla about this and so much opposition to it, just knee-jerk reaction. And quite honestly, I don't really, I mean, I'm generally okay with the Affordable Care Act. I don't, but I'm not convinced yet. I'm not convinced that it's going to deliver on everything that it's going to deliver, that has been promised, and it doesn't help, it doesn't make me feel more confident when the federal government is delaying implementation now by a year. And I saw a headline on the news ticker earlier today. I never saw the story, so I don't know what it means, but apparently some unions are now coming out and having some problems with the Affordable Care Act. I'd like to know more about what they have to say, because the point that was made by this headline was, if unions are having problems with the Affordable Care Act, then there must be something wrong. I'm not so sure that's true, but there's an element of truth to it. So
yeah, you and I know that one of the things the union have are actually Cadillac kind of products.
What's that?
Cadillac.
Product.
Yeah. You know, top of the line.
Yeah, they get the tax. Right? They get hurt.
But you know, one of the things I find, and you're an attorney, but one of the things I found, even in, you know, with the legal side of, and even though we had attorneys that did that when I was city clerk, every new law, really, you've got wrinkles and crimps and this and that to work out the first time that they pull it out, you know. And usually there are changes that take place in those first few years, because until you actually lay it out there and people actually start using it, you don't know totally what is going to work or how it's going to work.
I really do believe that new laws that are proposed by government, be they local or regional or state or federal for that matter, new laws that people really aren't sure about, you'll have these two camps that come out. You'll have the one camp that says the sky is falling, the sky is falling, and then you'll have another camp that says we're building the Taj Mahal, we're building the Taj Mahal. And like a trial where a jury hears two separate sides completely, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle, absolutely. Now, for those who have concerns about their Medicare as it relates to the Affordable Care Act and any possible changes with that, because, you know, we hear a lot about people saying that they've got to change their doctor, their medical doctors and all this kind of stuff, that they promised that they wouldn't have to change their doctors is not true or whatever. How does that shake out, or do you have a handle for that?
You know, there's really very little change to Medicare as a result of the Affordable Care Act. In fact, the changes that I've seen are improvements, not problems. For example, you know, Medicare has several parts: A, B, C, and D. And under Part B, which is, you know, providing various types of care, there are things that are available now that for free that you couldn't get before. You know, now if somebody is suspected of alcohol misuse counseling, or if they've got a cardiovascular disease and they need some counseling to help them with that, if they're not sure if they have depression and they need a screening, or if they may be obese and they need a screening and some intensive counseling for that, people on Medicare can now get that for free. If they're concerned about sexually transmitted diseases, then they can get screened for that and counseled for that for free. And so they must be at risk of an STI, a sexually transmitted disease. But this is not something that is available to all folks on Medicare as a result of the Affordable Care Act. One of the best parts of the Affordable Care Act for the elderly, though, is it's going to slowly get rid of the donut hole. The dreaded donut hole of the Part D. For any elderly person who has a prescription drug plan, who has a lot of medications, you know what the donut hole is. But many people don't know what the donut hole is. And so if you don't mind, I'll just take a moment to explain it. With Medicare, the way that it works is that you've got a deductible, okay, and this year it went up to $325. So once you've spent $325 on your medical, your prescriptions, then the government will start paying for your prescriptions up to $2,970. Then you drop into the donut hole. The donut hole now means that until you have spent $4,750, the difference between $2,970 and $4,750, then you're going to have to pay 100% of your own prescription bills. So that's a difference of about $1,800, somewhere around there. And that's kind of scary for folks who are on a fixed income and don't, you know, on a pension and Social Security and maybe not pension sometimes. And so they don't know what they're going to do. But here's the beauty of it. With generic drugs, they're only going to, it's not so much only, but 79% is what they'll have to pay. They don't have to pay 100% of the price. They'll pay 80%, 79%, almost 80% of the price. But they get credit for the 100% price. So if they pay $80, they're credited with $100 towards that $1,800. If they get brand name drugs, they're going to get a 52.5% discount, meaning they're paying less than half for the prescription drug.
And some people have no choice but to.
That's right, especially with diabetics and people with seizure disorders, people who've had strokes, etc. They're going to be paying 47.5% of their brand name drug, but they get credit for the full value. So if all they had was the brand name drugs, and they spent $800 on those brand name drugs, they filled their donut hole. And once the donut hole gets filled, then the coverage starts up again. And between now and 2020, the donut hole is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears completely. So it's really, I just think it's an exciting thing for
it is. It is. Especially as you're saying, I mean, you are on a set income. Unless the government gives you a little increase, you know, on your Social Security or whatever else, that's all you've got. And, you know, it's not like, even though a lot of seniors are out there working part-time just to bring in some funds so that they can help with medical costs and the like, or get some kind of health care coverage, they won't have as much of a concern in that regard, and I think that's phenomenal as well.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people listening may I don't want them to misunderstand. It's not like your prescriptions are free. When it's before the donut hole, people still have to pay 25%. Medicare recipients still have to pay 25% of the cost of the medication. And sometimes they'll have a supplemental policy that will help with that, or an advantage policy. After the donut hole, they only pay 5%. $1 out of 20. That's not too bad.
No, it's not. Any other changes that Medicare people have to be concerned with, or?
You know, not really. You know, for the younger people, myself, yourself, folks a little younger than us, you know, those of us who are fortunate enough to be in a higher income, we're going to get paid. We're going to be taxed more. You know, it used to be that high wage earners, those earned over $200,000, or if it's a couple, $250,000, would pay 0.9% on their income. That goes up now to 3.8% investment income. So, excuse me, I misspoke. We're going to start paying 0.9% on earned income, and 3.8% on investment income. That was not something that was present before. So these are things that younger generations are going to suffer with. You know, my daughter, my oldest child, is 27, and she is a very conservative political person, and we have some rather interesting discussions at times. And you know, I view myself at least as fairly middle of the road, maybe leaning a little right on some issues and a little left on some issues. And what she's most upset about this whole Affordable Care Act thing is that why should she, as a 27-year-old who is generally healthy, have to go out and buy insurance for herself when she really doesn't need it? Why should she have to do that? And I said, because you're already paying for it. Your tax dollars are already paying for people who are not getting care. This just spreads it out a little more.
Right.
You should end up paying less with it this way, but she doesn't buy that argument. So.
The other thing is that even though a lot of people think that the only people who get sick or need to go in the hospital are the elderly, but that's not the case. That, you know, younger people are actually getting Alzheimer's and the like. I mean, people in their 40s, 30s, they're even, you know, babies are getting some illnesses now that years ago you never heard of, you know, young people getting, babies and the infants and the like. So
we've got a relative who turned, I think, 23 this year, and he had ulcerative colitis since the time he was a teenager. You know, and that's a condition for listeners who aren't aware of it. It affects your intestines, and you get ulcers in your intestines that bleed out, and your blood count gets low. You lose a lot of weight. You look ashen usually. It's a debilitating disease. And after he turned 21, before the Affordable Care Act took effect for pre-existing conditions and kids who were up to 26 years of age, he could not get insurance, and he couldn't be on his parents' policy. And then when the parents' policy, when the Affordable Care Act came back, then they were allowed to have their kids up to 26. He was able to get that. He had corrective surgery. That now he's fine. There's no problems with it, and it's just wonderful.
and a lot of our young people are on, you know, what is that, ADD and all that kind of stuff that they diagnose them with. A lot of them are on medication, and that's it's costly medication that they're on.
Yes,
I mean, they need a way to be able to cover that as well. So it's not like young people are totally exempt. I'm sure there are a lot of them that are in good health, but you know, you're gonna go drive out and be in a car accident tomorrow or whatever else.
And you know, you talk about the deficit, attention deficit disorders, and back when I was a kid, we were just called rambunctious.
Yeah.
We weren't called. We didn't have a disease. We were just energetic.
Hyper,
hyper,
and all this kind of.
And that's just. I think it's a reflection of the advancements of our medical treatment that people are getting. That now we're realizing that some of these behaviors that are really just manifestations of an underlying disease, and the same thing is happening in the elderly community. In the elderly community, I'll never forget this. When I was in college, I went over to one of my, at the time, girlfriend, now my wife's family members' houses, and the uncle, it was one of her great uncles or something like that, and he was an elderly gentleman, of course, and he was sitting in his chair talking like he was still at a farm, to go feed the horses and do this and do that, and we just thought that he was senile. That's all it was.
That's all we said, right?
Now we know it was dementia. And then it was a form of dementia, which may have been Alzheimer's, etc. And with knowledge comes the ability to appropriately treat. There are medications now that symptoms, at least, of Alzheimer's disease. Not all memory issues, folks, I'm not a doctor, I just play one in the office. And but not all forms of dementia, not all forms of mind issues, memory issues, are Alzheimer's.
Right.
It could just be a form of dementia. Sometimes it's alcohol related. Sometimes it's just because somebody's had a stroke. Sometimes it's because someone has a urinary tract infection, and it's manifesting itself through some behaviors that are either inappropriate or agitating, things along that line that have been mistaken for Alzheimer's and dementia for a while.
And now they will have, through the Affordable Care Act, they will have the opportunity of going to see a doctor and to get diagnosed, properly diagnosed with proper and adequate testing, and actually be able to get some help or assistance. And I think even in the Affordable Care Act, even though we talk a lot about the need for additional funding for mental illness, which is still necessary and needed, but I think it even deals with some of that, some kind of assistance in regards to some of the testing and the like that goes on and is necessary for mental illness, which is more rampant than people believe.
I'm not as familiar with the terms, with the provisions of the Affordable Care Act that deal with psychiatric medications and treatments and psychological treatments. But, that's another thing as we advance in medicine in general. It used to be that people were just crazy. They were moody.
Right.
Now we find out it's bipolar because of chemical deficiencies in the brain. Sometimes it's an anxiety disorder caused by a deficiency in the brain that a medication can take care of and really help somebody with. And so it's the way that our society is growing is very, very positive for those folks out there who do suffer with mental illnesses, or have family members or loved ones that suffer from mental illness. At least there is some hope that all of the restrictions that we now see in health insurance policies for psychiatric or for psychological counseling, that those restrictions are going to get loosened. I don't know to what degree, but I do understand that the Affordable Care Act is going to make psychiatric and psychological treatment more available to people, which is fantastic.
Which means we're at least moving in the right direction. We may not be totally there yet, but we are, with that, moving in the right direction. And even in terms of the impact on women, the limitations that were placed on women in terms of insurance and the like, that has been removed as well in terms of an age, cap, that being removed. So there are a lot of positive things, I think, that in fact, I don't think, I just know that's coming out of the Affordable Care Act. And it's unfortunate that, and I'm sure this happened with, I'm told, with Social Security and a lot of the other stuff, that we've now come to accept. And man, you talk about taking somebody's anything away now, they're ready to go to war with you. So we will, we'll work our way through those pains, I think, in regards to what's coming to the forefront now. A lot of people, and it's so important, I think, and that's one reason I have you here too, is to share information with people, because there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. There's a lot of half-truths, and truthfully, a lie is something with the taste of truth that becomes an entire meal. But there is misinformation, and I'm sure you would join me in saying to people, because there's so much information that is available, factual information, where they can go on the website and they can look up the information, they can do their research and really find out what the truth is as it relates to them in particular, in terms of the elder or senior citizens, in terms of family members, in terms of these marketplace health insurances that will be available. And as I said, people can sign up for that October 1. Is there hope? Because I'm sure you keep your ear to the ground as well in terms of what's happening in the political arena as it relates to what's going on with the business that you're involved in. I know there was a prospect, people kept hoping that the legislature would call a special session they're saying now that that won't happen, now that the White House has actually put off the requirement as far as the larger businesses in terms of providing or being fined if not providing health insurance. But are there other things that people should be watching and looking out for in terms of what you're hearing? And before I'm going to let you speak to that, but let me just say you listen to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. This is Goliath Radio. It's big, WLE 1380 AM on the radio dial in Ormond Beach, Florida. And my guest is attorney Scott Selis, who is an elder care attorney. That's a good thing. Elder care attorney. That's a good label. Elder care attorney, and they have offices in Volusia and Flagler counties. And he delves with just every manner of elder concern. And you know, I know that there are also, because one of the things you mentioned at the workshop too, or the forum, had to do with some of the scams that are going on out there too. But before that, anything that we should be watching or looking out for?
You know, I would just say look out for anything that sounds like it's either too good to be true or too bad to be true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that if you hear somebody saying the sky is falling, kind of wonder about that. Same thing if they say that it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found that there are two resources on the internet that are really tremendous for understanding the Affordable Care Act and what impact it's going to have on the elderly as well as the general population.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is the Claude Pepper Center at Florida State University.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I served on the assisted living facility workforce. I was appointed by the Secretary for the Agency for Healthcare Administration to help improve, to recommend to the legislature rules to improve safety in assisted living facilities. And the gentleman who was the chairman of that was Larry Polivka, who is a scholar, an in-house scholar for the Claude Pepper Institute up in Tallahassee. Just tremendous resource for information.
Mm-hmm.
Another resource that's really good is the Kaiser Foundation. If you just do a Google search for the Kaiser Foundation,
right,
and the Affordable Care Act, you can find just a whole litany of scholarly and intelligent writings. They're neutral, they are not biased in the least. As an elder care attorney, you know, I don't really care that much about the politics of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do as an individual and as a citizen, I care
Mm-hmm.
about those things. But as an elder care attorney, what I care about is understanding and knowing how it's going to impact my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do to help my clients better understand what's coming? And you know, one of the myths that's out there, for example, about Medicare is that Medicare will pay for nursing home care. People think that Medicare will pay for somebody to come into your house and take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And under some circumstances, they will pay for a nursing home if you're in rehabilitation for up to 100 days and have just gotten out of the hospital after a brief stay of at least 3 days. You can get in-home care if it's of a nursing type of a nature, where you have to be given a shot or you need a catheter replaced or removed, etc. But Medicare is not going to pay for those types of things. And you know, there's two things that elderly people, in my experience, fear the most. The first of them is running out of money before they die.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is ending up in a nursing home. Okay? And so what ends up happening is that the elderly person is trying to hold on to all their money. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Then they start having some functional limitations. And so they have to either start spending money or finding a way to get care in the house. I've got members of my own family who are not locally, but
Mm-hmm.
distant, who need some help at home, but aren't doing it because they're afraid of spending money, of running out of money, or tapping into some public benefits that could help them, whether they're from the VA or from the state federal partnerships that are out there.
Or council on aging.
Council on aging,
Yeah.
exactly. And so they're afraid of that. And so what ends up happening is as their functional limitations increase, you know, at the beginning they might do okay, they're fine, you know, and then they get to where they should be spending a little bit of money and they don't. And then they get to where they should be spending a little more money and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to a situation where maybe they should be in a supervised situation and they don't, because they don't want to spend the money. miss some medications, and as a result they have a stroke. And where do they end up? In the nursing home where they didn't want to be. And so one aspect of our practice is life care planning, which is where we have a nurse on staff who will go out to the people's home, and they will ascertain what is the appropriate level of care that you need. We'll help you find it, pay for it, so you can stay at home, so you can have a good quality of life for as long as reasonably possible. The private funds are the last place that we want to take it from, but if that's what's needed to keep you going, then this is how you can prevent yourself from being a burden on your family, is by engaging in these things. And we provide the nurse, the life care plan. We will do all of the estate planning, wills, trust, powers of attorney, and government benefits planning is going to be done. We'll go ahead and do government benefit applications for folks, all for one fee. It's not like we're going to be charging for every little thing. So there are services like these out there for people that are available to help them. And if you've got a parent who lives in New York, for example, we see the converse of this locally, where we get calls from children who are out of town. But if you've got parents who are living up in New York or up in Michigan, and they really need help, you should really look for a life care program in that area who can be your eyes and ears. Because one of the things that folks don't realize is that adult children of these new senior citizens in their 80s are taking time off from work, traveling, and incurring expenses to do that, coming down, seeing what's going on with mom and dad. Well, with an elder care coordinator, somebody who's on the ground, you'll be able to have some eyes and ears where your folks are, and have some sanity to know that you're doing better. And safe.
Yeah, and I have to say too that Council on Aging, which is an agency that will provide some services as well, which individuals can get for private pay or is covered under some funding that they have. Those services are available too, and the people who are getting those services really feel super great about the fact that they're getting them. And I need to say this too, that match program is still in place with a $100,000 match. I believe that they were probably about 75,000 or 80 or so, close to getting the dollar for dollar match challenge that's there for Council on Aging. So those of you who've not yet contributed to that, please do so. You have until July 31st, but do it as soon as possible. I already sent them, it wasn't a great deal of big money, but it was some money, and every dollar helps. So please do send Council on Aging some money for the match program they have, so that they can get all of that $100,000, which, as you know, will help to take the place for the cuts that they've received in the amount of $150,000 for their Meals on Wheels program. And there are a lot of people who are benefiting from the Meals on Wheels and the food programs that are available. And we really and truly want to, that it's just right that we do that for our elder and our senior citizens.
Are you talking about the match program that Gail Memorial put out there? Yes. For those of you listeners who don't know who Gail is, Gail, first of all, is a man, so don't make the mistake thinking that he is a she. And he is the founder of Stonewood and is a partner at Hooligans and of a number of restaurants, and is very, very generous with his funds.
And all kinds of programs for young people and, and this for the elderly, so.
He founded Peach Valley, and just really, really good man.
Yes.
I don't know him personally, I've never met him. Impressed by what he does.
Yes, I have met him, and I know of a lot of great things that he has done, and for him to do this because of the need, he saw a need, and he reached in his pocket to try to help the need and said, I'll give you $100,000 if you can match it. So I know they're already 70,000 plus, close to it, but they're trying to get the entire 100,000, which will help them then to have his 100,000, their 100,000 for 200,000, which will help to meet the need for individuals in our communities who have a need for food. So in terms of health care, Scott, one of the things that I've found is that if someone does not have good health, I tell you, it can ruin, no matter whether they're rich, poor, whatever, it can ruin everything else about their lives. I mean, if you don't have good health, then a lot of the other stuff really and truly does not matter. And you've given us a couple of good places where we can go and check. We've talked about how some of the young people might feel toward health care, affordable health care, the elderly. What about family members though? Because, you know, we were talking about the working poor, which the expansion of Medicaid would have helped. And this is the forgotten group of people, forgotten or forlorn or whatever you want to call it, that who are out there working, trying to make it, but they just can't seem to get enough, have enough, whatever, to be able to pay for and to afford health care for themselves and for their families. Fortunately, there are programs that will provide some health care for children. You know, there are programs that are available for that through Healthy Families, Healthy Kids, and the like. Those programs are there for those of you who have children who could qualify. You can apply for that. But for the mothers and the fathers, this program, the Affordable Health Care, will be of help to them. Now, for people who think, okay, this is going to cost a whole lot, the marketplace, it's really going to cost a lot. You get a feel for that? I know that some things are still kind of up in the air. We know that in Florida, the federal government, there will be, again, sign-up available effective October 1 through March 31 of next year. But we really don't know what the cost of that will be, except that I heard you say something about for even people who have, where the employers are providing insurance for the employees, they're not required to do it for the children.
That's right. It's only for the employees.
And they can offer it, but they can't charge more than what, 3 times or what is that for?
I don't remember the exact amount, but yeah, the Affordable Care Act is not designed to extend care to a whole family out in the backs of employers. That's not what it's designed to do. However, the part of the Affordable Care Act is that for the folks who are in the working poor category, they will be, even without Medicaid extension, under federal law, there will be subsidies that will help them pay for their health care insurance. So that it's not a free ride, except a very, very small percentage of people. And these folks will be able to, they should be able to afford health care insurance with the subsidies that will be coming from the federal government. And that, you know, that's really what it all boils down to. There's the hot topic debates about whether this is communism or socialism and all that kind of stuff, and I'm really, frankly, not interested in getting into that debate. But, you know, when I look back at, if history is any guide to what happens with large-scale government benefits programs, as far as the cost goes, it's probably going to be more than what we expect. But the citizens are probably going to find it to be a good value, and will therefore say, don't take away my benefits, which is what now happens with Medicare, which is what now happens with Social Security. You know, if you go back and you do any research historically on what were the controversies surrounding Medicare when it was being proposed in the 60s, and what was it like when Social Security was being proposed in the 30s, what you'll see is the very same arguments we hear today.
Absolutely.
The exact same arguments as what we hear today. And one of the most interesting things that I've seen, this is a little off topic, I hope you don't know, but with Social Security, that was originally intended to be an insurance program. Okay? Now, do you know of any insurance, is there any insurance program that you could think of where you get to benefit from it just because you reach a certain age? I don't know of any.
No.
And I pay for health insurance, but if I don't have to go to a doctor, I don't get any benefit from it. If I don't have to go to a hospital, I don't get any benefit of it, and so I'm paying for it but getting no benefit from it. Well, if you go back and you look at the Social Security, what it was originally was an insurance program. But when the creators of Social Security did this, they made the only qualifying aspect of it age. Once you reach a certain age, you get Social Security.
Mhm.
And the reason is that back in the 30s when this was going on, when you were 65 years old, your life expectancy was really short.
Right.
And most of the time, you were not even able to work. And so in order to help those folks who had fallen on bad times during the Depression, and now they couldn't work anymore, we had Social Security available to them. The creators of Social Security could never have imagined that that medicine would get so good that people could work into their 70s and into their late 70s. My father, God bless him, he's 81 years old. He's still working. He's not working full time, but he loves to work and he wants to work. I know many folks who are like that. So, but everybody's paid into their Social Security all these years, and the paradigm out there is I've paid into it, therefore I'm entitled to it. Well, that's not true for any other type of insurance. I don't think it's ever going to happen where Social Security will reflect what it was truly intended for, which was to help the poorest of the poor who were physically unable to work and who were over a certain age get some help. I cannot think of any reason why somebody who is a multi-millionaire, even a billionaire, who wouldn't even notice the Social Security check not being paid. Why are we paying insurance benefits for something like that? It's not as an insurance program. And so somewhere along that continuum, the idea was right in the 30s. The way it was structured, it's outgrown. Society has outgrown that structure. I know that's a controversial thing I just said, but that's just it's an observation, not an opinion, by the way.
But now, as you've said, people feel that it is an entitlement.
Oh, there's no question that people think it's an entitlement. And I just put that out there kind of as a devil advocate, if you will. Start thinking about those little things when you start thinking, how can we find ways to save some money? Well, maybe there's people who really don't need Social Security who are now getting it and shouldn't be.
Who would never give it up because they feel that they've paid into it and they're entitled to get it.
That's right. They paid for it and they're entitled, but they would never think that about their health insurance policy, would they?
So in the closing moment of the show, if you want to share with our listeners, again, information about your company, your law firm, and the areas that you cover, and just give people just a little sentence or two in reference to, because I see it encouraging. I agree with you, it's exciting in terms of the Affordable Care Act and what it will help. I've said this and I continually repeat it. People have short memories because what they don't remember is before this passed, what we had was continually escalating healthcare costs. That was not sustainable.
My insurance policy went up 10% a year religiously. It didn't matter. It went up 10% a year. It didn't matter.
Yeah, and now it's like we've got convenient. I won't say Alzheimer's, but convenient forgetfulness in terms of that, because what has happened, and I'm sure people are saying, well, some of mine is going up. Mine is not going up the way that it was.
It's
since
not.
this.
And in fact, I right before I came here, I saw it was a teaser for a story that was coming up that in a number of states, I think it was 11 states, 11 or 14 states it was announced today, are actually going to have reduced premiums on their health insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. So now some people argue whether it's because of the Affordable Care Act, but that's for somebody else to argue.
Yeah, and then they're saying, but it's shooting up somewhere else. So, hey, eventually it will all settle out, and we will all, just as with Social Security and Medicare, get to the point. I agree with you. Well, we will say, how did we ever do without it? And we'll have a healthier, more productive workforce and community and society as a result of it.
Exactly. Well, if folks want to get in touch with us about anything, if you have any type of legal problem, just give us a call at 386-868-5337. That's 83. Speak very well. That's at 386-868-5337, or just check us out at yourlegalteamforlife.com. And you can find out more about our law firm, about me, and about our partners and the lawyers who work in the firm. So if you have an elder law or an elder Obamacare issue, please call me. I serve on the Florida Bar's Elder Law Section Executive Council. I'm chair of the Legislative Committee for that, and I'm on the Joint Public Policy Task Force for the elderly and the disabled. So if you got a question, I might know the answer to it. If I don't, I can certainly find out. Thanks for having me on, Gwen. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and as always, like I said, I got a lot of good information from listening to you at the forum, and again, I could sense your passion and your desire to really be of help to the elder community. So many thanks to you and others at your law firm. And just a reminder to folks, again, you can start to sign up if you don't have health insurance, you don't have health coverage. And this is, you know, the working poor and others like that. This is not for people who are on Medicare or Medicaid and the like. This is for people who have no health insurance. You can sign up for Health Insurance Marketplace starting in October 1st. That goes through March 31st of 2014 with coverage starting in January 1. And there will be agencies and individuals around in our county as well as around the state and the nation who can help you to do that. And you can go online to do it, which is fantastic as well. Okay, thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in every Thursday starting at 6:15 as we discuss issues to inform and empower you, our listeners. Also, be sure to go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com. So again, you can get links to all that powerful information that will make you what? All powerful. So until next time, you be informed, be empowered, stand tall for that which is right and truthful. Again, this is Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest again, Attorney Scott Selis. And you can contact him by the information that you received. And this video will be uploaded to YouTube so that if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, you can go there and you can link onto that by going to the website and just clicking on the video recordings that's there, and it'll take you to the YouTube site, okay? www.gwen-truth.com. Hey guys, it's been fantastic. Again, be sure to listen in every Thursday, and you guys just have a great weekend. And to all the seniors out there, you know, we say seniors, we say elders, all of those that are over 50 when it comes to AARP, or you're over 60 or whatever, especially if you're like my neighbor Walter, who is in his 90s. Shout out to all of you guys. You're just phenomenal, and I am just awed by you know, not only your involvement, your continued working, your continued giving back to the community. You're just awesome. For all of our seniors and elders, God bless you and keep you. And until next week, hey, stand tall. God bless.
Your host, Gwen Azama-Edwards, exclusively.
Thanks for having me, Gwen.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't commercial plug too much.
No. I wanted to make sure that the people knew to feel free to get in touch with you.